Welcome to Ethos Effect Podcast.
Welcome to the Ethos Effect Podcast.
Podcast.
After building and learning from failures,
We discovered our ethos and leveraged it
to scale, sell, and build again our seven-figure businesses.
whether you're starting out or leveling up.
This podcast is your source for innovation and lasting impact.
I am so excited to have you on. Welcome to Nashville.
Thank you. Favorite city in the entire country. So I honestly feel like I should have been born in Nashville.
No, I feel like you belong here.
Right?
You have the energy, and it's an energy.
Yes.
Nashville is an energy.
That's why I like it.
It's not a industry. It's literally a feeling, a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that I know that loves it this much, it's that shared feeling.
Yeah. It's a lot of people who are up to something bigger, as I like to say. Like a lot of really people who believe in abundance and a rising tide lifts all boats. There's a community sense that I haven't seen. I mean, we literally travel the country.
You're always
everywhere.
somewhere.
Yes. Yeah.
Your passport, you're just jet set queen.
Very rarely home. But yeah, this city has a vibe that I'm all about.
Okay, so you were telling me off air you live in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, so we are in Puerto Rico. We have our businesses in Orlando. We also live in Orlando part of the year, but we live in Puerto Rico part of the year. There's a tax incentive. So if you consult American businesses, you can qualify for a tax incentive. So we're taking advantage of that as a way to continue the scale. We've been very lucky in our business to have double-digit revenue growth every year. So that's one other way to continue the scale and reinvest back in the business with those tax savings. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you were also telling me you and your husband, who is crushing, you're both just incredibly good looking. You guys are
He's super cute.
Power couple, so power couple, entrepreneurs. How did you all, because you worked together before getting together. So
Correct.
What, give me the origin story of the relationship.
So my first insurance agency that I started, I was 25 years old and I was looking to partner with health insurance brokers. So at the time I was doing more technology and employee engagement, sort of on the outskirts of really solving the actual problem in our country, which is this American healthcare crisis. My husband, at the time, just Donovan Rikes. He owned his own firm and he was actually solving the problem. So one day I went to him and asked hey, can we partner? These are all the things that I would bring to the table. And I remember I love being in a room full of men. And if you are familiar with the insurance industry, median age is probably 55. It's old, it's stale, it's male, it's pale, it's all the things, right?
I'm dead.
Yeah, sorry.
You've checked every box. Yes.
So meeting with him, I was so used to people wanting things from me, right? You need to give up your compensation. You need to do whatever. And he didn't ask for a thing. And at the end of the meeting, he was like, yeah, of course I'll partner with you. You care more than anybody I've ever met. And I was like, oh, that's really nice. And he didn't ask for any of my compensation. He didn't ask me anything. He just was genuinely you fill a gap. So then we partnered together for 6 months or so. It was going really well. And we decided to just take it to the next level. At that point, I was kind of captive to an insurance agency and I wanted to solve the real problem and join him on that mission. So I became a partner in the business. And this is a plug for any women listening out there about contracts. Partnerships can be really tough. I've seen a ton of them not work out. And you need to be very clear on the contractual terms if the partnership was to dissolve, as well as who is doing what. Staying in your lane in a partnership is very, very important, and identifying that. And obviously that'll change as businesses change and evolve too. But having that very open communication and staying out of each other's way is really important.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So at 25, you had already started, that was your first business.
Yeah. And that was coming off of a brain injury in college. So I actually thought I was going to be a doctor. And my goal was I'm going to save all the people in the world through medicine, right? And being from Canada, my firm belief is everybody deserves access to healthcare. Because growing up in Canada, it didn't matter if you are the wealthiest CEO or homeless, you get to go to the same hospitals. You get to see the same doctors. The accessibility component in terms of getting in, not necessarily wait times, that's a whole other conversation, but access is there. And so one of my fundamental beliefs when I came to this country, I was so confused, well, why don't they get to go to the good hospital? Why don't they get to have the good doctor? Like, and it was like, the more money you had, the better healthcare you had, right? So I saw a lot of issues there that I didn't love. And through my brain injury, experienced what 1 in 12 Americans experience, which is medical debt. And so like I got hit in the head with a softball playing college softball, returned to Canada to do a brain injury rehab program instead of going to med school, and all of these bills followed me. And that was sort of my first experience where, you're like 22 years old. You aren't going to medical school. You busted your ass for so many years to get that opportunity. And now you're like, will I ever work again? I couldn't hold a conversation. I couldn't lights like this, not a chance. And then didn't have any money to pay for the rehab and pay for these medical bills. So I started waitressing, and I would wear earplugs because I couldn't handle the noise, like the dishes clanking. Yeah. And I also forgot everyone's order with the memory loss. I was like the worst waitress ever. You did not want me to be your waitress. But yeah, that was my first kind of experience and what ignited me down this path of like, can we actually fix American healthcare, and what's the best way to do that?
What I'm curious before we dive into like the healthcare part, like how did you heal? Like that is so traumatic.
It was wild. Rest. So I think when everything happened to me, this was like before the concussion movie with Will Smith came out. It was before everybody was talking about CTE and the NFL and brain injuries. And, my situation was I was cleared to play a little too soon. I wanted to play. I went in, I'm 22 years old. I'm the team captain. I'm leading in home runs. I don't want to let my team down. At that time, there wasn't the hype around concussions, right? I think, so healing was, I did the same brain injury rehab program that a famous hockey player named Sidney Crosby did. And I did it with, it's called functional neurology. So it's a subset of neurology. It's very alternative. And it was 3 days a week. I would go in and all sorts of different brain exercises. They'd put me on these balancing components to try to recalibrate my balance. There'd be like numbers and letters on the wall, and I'd have to go like 1A, 2B, 3, and then they'd time me. And, at the beginning, it was very slow. I couldn't find them. And then it got a little bit faster. Did what's called brain wave therapy, which is this whole other thing. But ultimately, when you first have a brain injury, like rest is the only thing, at least in my experience, because I just was cleared to play too soon.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing too is like when you have something like that happen, or you get a diagnosis or whatever, like the bills don't stop when you're going through that
because you've stopped.
Right.
Yeah. No,
and you can't
terrifying.
Go work because you're resting. So then it's like there's just no mercy in any capacity.
Well, and the same is true for people with a cancer diagnosis or any type of chronic illness, right? Or even an acute illness. And that's why, insurance is not sexy. Let's call it what it is, right? Like social media is sexy. Marketing. Yeah,
it looks like it is. But I get why, I get what you're saying. Like
there's like a glam to it.
Yes, but insurance, you're like, I want to pull my hair out just thinking about it.
Yeah, nobody wants to talk
But that's from a consumer standpoint, just because it sucks to get quotes and deal with it. And it's the worst part of any business owner's journey is accounting and insurance.
Absolutely. And at the beginning, probably attraction and retention of talent, I would add to the list.
We'll add that in there.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the beginning, but also in the middle.
Yes, definitely the middle. Yeah. Actually,
maybe forever.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like this conference I was just speaking at here in Nashville, I'm speaking with HR and CFOs, CEOs of large companies across the country. And one of my favorite questions to ask them is, and I just love learning about business, what's your biggest challenge? And not just healthcare and benefits, that's not all I want to know. I want to know in general. It's always people. It's always the, not even just the recruitment, but really the advancement of talent. Like talent acquisition is one skill set, but like talent building and development is a whole nother skill set. Mm-hmm. And I find it super fascinating because talent's really what drives our organizations, and our employees are our first customer. And a lot of the times you'll see leadership's very focused on customer feedback, when they're missing the best feedback, which is right in front of them, and their own asset, their number one asset, which is where benefits obviously comes into play.
Wow, that's amazing. And I've never heard it like articulated so well. That's so true. And I love that you're so fascinated by that piece because I am too. That's like, I'm such a business nerd in general. And I'm just like, it's also comforting to hear that it's a pain point of so many people.
So many people. And speaking of pain points, this has to do with talent, as we're speaking about, benefits like healthcare, companies offering their employees healthcare. That's usually a number 2 or number 3 expense, second only usually to payroll expenses. And we just produced a documentary, and it's about this big lie that's plagued American businesses. And there's nothing you can do to control the cost of your healthcare. And the truth is, and I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist because that's not what I'm about, but there is a healthcare system. And people keep saying, oh, the system's broken. No, it's actually working exactly as it was designed, which is to profit insurance companies, hospitals, insurance carriers, like it's brokers that are not doing what I'm doing. Everybody in the system is profiting off of employers believing, well, screw it. There's nothing you can do. Just accept that 15% increase. That's a good year. It's wild. So the documentary is essentially exposing all of that. But I find what I'm seeing is when businesses decide like, you know what, I'm done getting screwed on healthcare. I need it to attract, retain, and develop talent. And they understand and they meet the right people. They get a glimpse into what it's like to actually have control over it.
Wow. Okay. So that is so fascinating. And I love that you're speaking to, everyone that listens to this show owns a business. So I think this is totally the perfect audience of like, it is so frustrating that because of everyone says the same thing. There's one size fits all. This is all it is. You're never going to get a better situation. Your employees are just going to have to suck it up.
Yeah,
what I'm hearing, like it couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly, 100%. And unfortunately, this is what I feel about pretty much everything. When you follow the money, you eventually get to the truth. So the big question that I encourage the business owners listening to ask, and this isn't just benefits, this is literally every single vendor that you're hiring for your business. How much are you getting paid? When are you getting paid? Why are you getting paid? Like, it blows my mind how many businesses have absolutely no idea what they're paying their benefits advisor or broker. But I guarantee you, if you come in and you're offering your social media services, sure as shit, they're going to know exactly what they're paying you, right? Which, and this is just the way that all of this works. You're probably not a top 10 expense in the business, most likely.
Yes,
depending.
Right. We can be a luxury sometimes. Yeah.
Right. Versus
not a necessity or whatever.
Right. Versus benefits, you're not going to keep your team without benefits. That's the number 1 or 2 or 3 expense. So one of my arguments is business owners know what social media costs. They know what a paperclip costs. They know what their printing paper costs.
But they know the margin. They know, yeah.
And they won't accept, you couldn't go, maybe you could, but I've had vendors come to me and try to give me a 20, 30, 40% increase for my website. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing differently this year? What's changed?
Different?
Yeah, right? And you have those conversations and those negotiations. What businesses don't realize is they have that same power on healthcare, which is, again, a number 2 or 3 expense. Why are we not negotiating it like we actually negotiate and understand every other piece of our business? And when you actually look into it, what you're going to find is everybody's getting paid off of the wrong outcomes. And what I mean by that, let's say you have a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan for your employees and your premiums, we'll keep it small, $200,000 a year. Next year, it's $300,000 a year. Your broker gets paid more money because they're making a commission. So if your premium goes up $100,000, guess who's making more on that $100,000? The person advising you. It's so backwards.
That makes zero sense.
Like, what the hell? Why have we allowed this to go on for so long? So our firm came into the space and we were like, we're done with, like, we never did it to begin with. We aren't going to win when you lose. So we just get paid like you pay a CPA, like you pay an attorney, a flat fee for doing a job and a service, right? Like, it's sad that is so revolutionary.
That is so crazy. I mean, is this like super, super new to the market? Like, are you all like the first kind of to this? Sounds like it.
So there's only a very small percentage of what I would call like transparent advisors or consultants in our space doing what we do.
Okay.
And that's why we travel around the country educating others how to do it, because unfortunately, I mean, I know I'm preaching to the choir, like Americans understand that healthcare in this country sucks. Not necessarily the quality, but the cost.
It's always down to the cost.
Yes. And sometimes the
get,
quality.
and sometimes, what you get for the cost. I've heard that from my team and like definitely want to chat with you off air because I'm like, oh my God, our insurance is like, we have this for this, we have this for this. I don't even know the premiums. I know that I've heard copays are ridiculous. But then I've been told from people older than me in business or whatever, why is there, it just is what it is. Like, just, that's it. Yeah. And remember like when everyone was like Cobra was the only option. And it was like, I mean, this is
so expensive.
Like thousands of dollars a month. And you're like, I'm a small business owner, but it was like, that was the only thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, okay. So what does it look like to work with Ethos Benefits? Like, what does it look like? Who is an ideal customer? What is their journey?
Mm-hmm.
What does that price point kind of look like? And like, I mean, I'm so interested.
Like, tell me all the things.
Tell me all the things.
So a couple things. We usually will meet businesses at an inflection point, and it's either there's two ways. Like, one is they get hit with a nasty increase and they're just like, man, this is unsustainable. And there literally are businesses out there that if they were to pay 40% more this year for healthcare, they will go out of business. Yeah. It's unsustainable, right? So there's a cohort of businesses that are just like, what the heck, we need to do something different. So they're the ones kind of coming and looking and researching, trying to find somebody doing it differently because clearly the status quo is no longer serving them. But the majority, it's a slow education process where I'm meeting employers. They're like, well, yeah, insurance sucks, but there's nothing I can do about it, right? And then that's where we educate them with the documentary, which will be on streaming platforms later this year. We educate them with the book that we wrote. We slowly introduce them to the fact that there is a different way to do this, but you have to think different, right? It's like the definition of insanity, you can't continue to do the same things and get a different outcome. So you have to ask different questions. And then usually it's not long into that education process that they're like, whoa, I have been taken advantage of by everybody that I've been trusting for years to give me advice. So the majority of businesses that we work with are going to be a little bit bigger, but I do have amazing referral partners that I can send for smaller companies, and smaller companies are not, for lack of a better term, screwed.
Yeah.
There are ways, really creative solutions that we can bring down market to smaller companies as well. But most of the time we're going to be working with companies like 100, even, up to 10,000 really, sometimes larger. So, and then we work for a fee. So essentially what happens, like, let's say there's a premium of $500 a month, whatever that means. In different regions of the country, that's terrible. In some regions, that's good. So just a flat number. Generally, the way brokers get paid is there's a commission built into that, right? I just saw one for 10%, which is outrageous, but nonetheless. So what we do is we take that commission out. So now the plan is $450 a month, and we just get paid a fee from the company. So we're actually, my fundamental belief, you work for who pays you.
Yes.
If an insurance company is paying me to sell you product, I work for them.
Yeah.
Am I really working in your best interest? Probably not.
No.
So I prefer to not work for insurance companies. I work for my clients. We figure out what your needs are and we go from there. But small companies do have options, even when everybody tells you don't. Mid-market companies, crap load of options. Large companies, even more options. But with that being said, one of the big myths in healthcare is that like bigger is better. And I'm sure you face it in your business too, right? Like giant social media firms versus more boutique experience.
Right.
A lot of the times companies want to hire the big firms because nobody gets fired for hiring a big firm.
Right.
There's like that fear.
Right. Absolutely.
Which is crap. We know that that's not true.
Yeah, Totally. I mean, there's so many layers to that, but yeah. Okay. Well, I would love to know, because I love on your website and in your marketing how you use the word like empowering. I think that that's a really interesting choice of words, but I just think being someone that has a team, and like that's my entire ethos, to use your word, is like in empowering my employees every single day. And so like how, with what you all do, like how does it go back to empowering, and what is your advice to business owners on how they can empower their team with better benefits?
Oh, that's such a good question. Wow.
I think it's like very, like you nailed it when I like with your messaging. I love that.
That's awesome. Thanks for the feedback. Well, here's what I find really interesting about, let's just talk about healthcare, health insurance. Businesses are talking about the cost, but nobody's actually talking about like, why do we offer healthcare? We offer healthcare for our employees and for their families, right? So like, what is the experience of that end user when they're actually utilizing this insurance? And the way that I think about insurance, there's two sides to it. So you have the healthcare financing, which is the premiums, the copays, the deductibles, all of that, right? The financing component. Then you have the healthcare delivery, like how are our employees actually experiencing healthcare? And that's where the empowerment happens, is really on the delivery side. So what I love to do is offer programs like concierge programs where employees can just call. Like all of our clients, there's one phone number, it's a text, and they can text all the employees.
Love that.
Yeah, they just text directly to their account manager and they say, hey, I need to book a specialist. I'm having a hard time finding one in my area that it doesn't have a 30-day wait. Can you help me? Absolutely. We pick up the phone, we figure it out. And I find that it seems kind of counterintuitive to almost cater so much to the employees that you're like, well, how are you empowering them? You empower them. That's my method of empowerment, is to really handhold them the first year through any type of benefit change and teach them along the way. So we will set appointments, we will negotiate bills, we will walk them through an explanation of benefits 3 times per employee. And then on that 3rd time, when they call in and they ask us to do the thing, we're like, well, let's hop on the phone together. And you're going to listen this time. And then the next time you can do it on your own. You empower through education. Because what actually happens is when employees go to use their healthcare, some barrier will happen. Somebody will say, well, we don't take your insurance, or our doctors are booked for the next month. A barrier happens. And most employees, that's where they're like, okay, done. I tried. And they delay care. When they delay care, later what happens is it becomes a catastrophic issue, which drives up the cost of healthcare because it's a big claim. So I believe that empowerment happens through education, hand-holding this most complex system in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Healthcare. Hand-holding them and then empowering them through education and showing them exactly, this is how you get what you want. But by just expecting them to do it on their own, even if you financially incentivize people sometimes, it's such a complex system, they don't do it. And they don't want to do it. Especially like lower earning populations, they're literally trying to make it through the week.
Yeah.
You know, the last thing that they're actually worried about is the colonoscopy that they should have scheduled a year ago because a doctor recommended it to them and they don't even know where to start. They probably think they need to go to the hospital for something, which is medical debt 101, right? Yeah, right. So giving them access to somebody that gives a lot of shits, which our team does, and easy access, like a text message versus like call a 1-800 number, sit on hold for 3 days, or go online and look up the providers. It generates 3,000 people. How do you know if they're any good?
Right. Wow. Okay.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it totally does. And I love that it is like more of like a bespoke situation with this. What are you seeing like with the current, let's say like the younger generation workforce right now? What are they wanting? What is the like North Star of benefits? Because I know it is obviously something everyone wants and expects of businesses to have. But I think that's a big question for CEOs. It's like, but what do we package? What's attractive? What is a package that they're gonna like love, especially if you can't pay like a massive salary?
Yes, I love that. So a couple things. One, I always recommend, and we do this for our clients too, is like surveying your population. Because what's really interesting is sometimes you think like, oh, well, let's say we have a lot of baby boomers. They're going to want this benefit over this. And when you survey your population, you generally find out that you actually had no idea what they wanted. But to speak specifically to younger populations, because we do have a lot of groups in my book of business that are younger, more progressive, more open-minded, what I see in the HR of these companies reflect this back to me. And this is almost outside of benefits. If you don't have the budget to do 100% health insurance paid, fertility benefits, childcare benefits, like all these fancy things. That's what young people generally are attracted to. They like pet insurance, which is really funny because nobody fucking uses it. Excuse my language.
That's really, they don't use it. They want it. They want that box checked, but they're not using it.
It's so funny. Like when I look at the data from our book of business, like we've got clients with thousands and thousands of employees, right? And when you look at pet insurance, like I'm thinking of one in particular, young people, a bunch of nurses, they've got 2,000-3,000 employees, 11 people take pet insurance. But holy crap, on that survey, did they want it? Which is fine because those are voluntary benefits, meaning the
they can
employees.
opt in.
Yeah. But what we're seeing in younger populations is they want pet insurance. Don't ask me why. But fertility, family planning, adoption, those types of benefits are huge.
Love that.
They go a really long way in building goodwill. An employee that's going through something like that, the loyalty that comes from programs, but I will say those are very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So I have an answer for, a cheaper way to help people. But the other things that we're seeing, mental health employees, younger employees, there's an expectation in the workforce that they will be seen, they will be listened to, they will be respected, they will be invested in. And mental health is a huge part of that. So highly recommend in your plans to negotiate free, unlimited mental health visits.
Wow.
Every single one of our plans has that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's amazing because I am just with having a young staff. That is like what I am hearing just is like the number one thing.
Yeah.
And it is so expensive and not accessible.
Yeah.
From the average,
Totally.
just perception
Yeah.
of everything. So that's okay. Super interesting.
There's also legislation it came out a few years ago, but it was literally finalized yesterday, which is really timely. It's called mental health parity. And what it says is that companies or insurance carriers, if they're offering plans, you have to cover mental health and substance abuse the same way you would cover a physical ailment. So if your copay for a specialist, let's say, is $50, your mental health copay for a specialist can't be $200. It's got to be equal, which is
As
awesome.
it should.
Right, exactly.
Amazing.
It's kind of sad that had to happen for everyone to be like, oh, this is worthy. But
Right. But here we are. We're learning, but we're learning slowly.
yes, like most things.
That's most things.
But if you are a smaller business, or let's say you're any type of business and the budget is tight this year, right? That happens. How can you cater to the younger population? All day long, flexibility. And that's not something that you necessarily need to spend money on. Sure, there are productivity ramifications and things like that. But in my experience, the ROI is immense. So what does flexibility look like? You can build that into your culture in a variety of ways. I'll share what we do at our agency. My employees are all over the country. They're remote. I've got younger employees. I've got older employees. I've got people with kids, people who are caregivers. That's a whole other thing. When you have like some middle-aged employees that are now having to take care of their parents as well as take care of their own kids. That's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
So, but let's say you have young employees. Everybody wants flexibility. Everybody wants to be able to feel like they are human enough. They are not just an employee, that their well-being matters. So if you need to go to the doctor in the middle of the day, okay, go for it. I trust you. I trust that you're going to make up that time. But you can't just have flexibility and offer flexibility if you don't have a culture of accountability and you don't trust your team. So, you really got to kind of go a little backwards, which is, what's the culture of our organization like? Do I trust my team to do what they say they're going to do, even when I'm not watching, right? Do I trust that if someone's going to go, I literally have employees that will text the group chat and say, had an emergency therapy appointment today. I'm going to log out an hour early. Everyone's like, great, hope you feel better. No big deal, and we trust each other. And I also have metrics to track everyone's productivity. I can see exactly their workload. I can see how quickly they're responding to clients. We have this whole transparent accountability within the business, which from an operational standpoint, you really need that if you're going to give flexibility. So I think it goes hand in hand. You need to have a culture of accountability, and people actually love that, by the way. Feedback, younger populations, they thrive off of it. They want to be told how to get better. They want to know where they stand. They want to know if you're going to open up a promotion, do they even have a chance? And if they don't, what do they need to do?
Right.
So the whole idea of accountability, feedback, culture, I'm obsessed with it. I love it. But that once you nail that, flexibility is no big deal, because these people, these employees, they're up to something bigger. To come back to the start of our conversation, they want to get to work because they're so excited to help people and be a part of a mission.
Wow. How do you create a culture of accountability? What does that look like? From the start when they're day one to, throughout?
So in my opinion, it starts in the recruiting process, which sounds crazy. But after every interview with somebody, with a potential recruit, I'll shoot them an email and just say, hey, do you have any thoughts on the interview process so far? How does it compare to the other companies that you're talking to? And some people are like, well, they get back to me a little bit sooner. This is back in the day when I was trying to figure out this process. Some of them say, actually, you guys respond very quickly, whatever. So you ask them something, which is going to be a different experience for them. Because since when else has somebody been like, hey, I haven't hired you yet, but I'm interested in your opinion.
Yeah. What do you think? What are questions you have for me? Or
yes. Yeah. And then, so the moment that you hire them and you take them into their onboarding, so onboarding on its own is huge. There needs to be, there's a statistic out there, but essentially the point of it is, because I can't remember exactly what it is, but onboarding is make or break. Employees know within the first 4 days if they're going to stay with your company or not.
Oh.
So right?
Like a dagger that you're the one you think that they're this is your 90-day performance, but it's literally on you.
And the interview process should be the same way. The interview process is not, do you fit into my company? The interview process is, this is transparently who we are. So something I do is I send out a packet to every single person that applies for a job. And before I take a phone call with them, so I have a 5-step interview process. The first is a phone call. Before I even schedule the quick 15-minute phone call, I have them read our culture, our values, our mission. I drop an F-bomb in that literature because that's who we are as a company. If you're offended by that, this is not the place for you. I explicitly state in our materials, we fight every single day. We are not your typical insurance agency that's just processing and, a part of the monster and the beast. We are changing the system. We are up to something bigger. And people are either fired up by that or they're scared. And I would rather them know that before I waste 20 minutes on a phone call with them. Right?
Yeah.
So I get a lot of feedback about that transparency. And I don't want people to come in and feel uncomfortable, because the expectation here is your job starts when somebody tells you no. And we're intense and we fight and, we bring results. And we're young and we're dynamic and we're energetic, and that's not everyone's vibe. But at least they know that, and we're not wasting each other's time.
Totally.
Yes. But the feedback and the accountability starts in onboarding, starts in the interview, starts in onboarding. So every single day for the first week, I will meet with the new team member during onboarding for 30 minutes at the end of the day. And I'll simply ask, how was your day? And then they're like, it was good, blah, blah, blah. The first couple of days are very quiet. What could we have done better in your training today? Oh no, nothing was fine.
Question.
Right? So, but the first day, they're kind of like, it was fine, right? You can tell there's a hesitancy there, even though I'm like, please, the only way we get better is if you tell us. By the third day, I've literally had employees that have only been with me for 3 days bring brilliant ideas. Hey, why are we using Zoom when everything else we do is on Google? Why are we not using Google Meets? oh, hey, why do we have a team text when we can use the Google chat? It's like, how the hell did I not think of that? But it's just a brand new perspective.
Totally.
So my recommendation when you're building feedback and accountability is you need to, as a leader, receive it first. So you take it from your team, because when you take it from your team, you're showing them how to react to your feedback. So I work with this feedback framework. The first one is you need to ask. You need to ask, like, okay, can I have feedback? Once they give it to you, you need to appreciate it before you respond to it. So whether you agree with the feedback or not, you thank them. Like, thank you so much. And so let's use that Google example. Like, wow, thank you so much. I know you've only been here 3 days, and to question our entire operational system took some balls. Thank you. And you know what? You're right. I'm going to take that back to Donovan and the rest of the team, and we're going to see if that makes sense. And because, the luxury of a boutique agency, we can pivot fast. And we implemented that 2 weeks later or a week later. But so once you appreciate the feedback, you then acknowledge it and you just repeat back what I heard you say. So what I heard you say was XYZ. Is that what you're saying? Yes. Okay, great. And then the really interesting piece is like, okay, is it true or is it not anymore? Like, do you lack context? Or maybe you're right. So you either accept the feedback or you decline the feedback. And then from there, you make an action plan on how to implement the feedback. And that's the part that everybody forgets. Everyone's like, oh, thank you so much for the feedback. Everybody feels better. And then, next week, the same shit happens. So the act piece is the biggest.
Execute, actually do it. And given, I love the acknowledgement piece too. I think that's brilliant and just lets them feel seen and heard, which is what everybody wants at the end of the day.
That's it.
What are your thoughts on survey? Like, I know you mentioned survey earlier, but like for feedback and things like this, like, do you all send surveys to your team members where you're getting it? Because I think we've done that before, and we did that so many years ago, and it was not good.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've been like, I love the verbal thing, but I do think there's you get the keyboard warriors sometimes behind where they're like, I'm going to
who leave Google reviews.
Yes. And, and then, it just opens up this like can of worms of like, and that was a different season in our company.
Yes,
when we had toxic situations. We don't have that anymore. But like, I just think there is a lot of like hesitancy from the business owner standpoint of like,
totally.
But you do have to kind of rip that Band-Aid off and just like hear it, because if you want change, you have to figure out where the problems are.
100%. So there's 2 things I'll say to that. First is when you're surveying populations, whether they're yours or your clients or whatever, never ask questions that you're not going to take action on. And I doubt that you did that, but that is like a very common mistake. It's like, what if we offered a no deductible health plan? It's like, wait, time out. Do you have the structure to do that? Like, have we created a strategy for that to actually happen? Because if you start saying these things, what if we offered a nutrition coach? Like, I don't know, whatever it is, right? Like, if you put these ideas out in a survey, you're opening the door. So the survey questions need to be very expertly crafted to inquire about, their feedback without giving the assumption that you're going to do absolutely everything they say. So there's like an art
It's
to
the
surveys.
trust thing. Yeah.
Yes. But bigger than all of that, with regards to feedback, accountability, all of it, there needs to be an operational system within the business that everybody goes back to as the truth, as like, this is how we operate. This is what's acceptable. This is the amount of time that can go by before you you should respond to a client within 24 hours. These are the expectations, the SOPs, the processes, right? Like, there needs to be an operational infrastructure that everybody can see, that everybody's meeting their deadlines, everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. They're following a workflow. Because what doesn't work is managing people, right? Like, if you go to someone on your team and you say like, hey, I've noticed you've missed a couple of deadlines. What's going on? And then they're going to go, well, I just have too much work and I'm burnt out and I'm this and I'm this. Right. Time out. What was the expectation? So if you had a system, so like we have Salesforce, right? I can see every single request that every single that's come into my agency from every client. I can see which team member is working on it. I can see the last time they touched it. I can see if they've ranked it 1 to 5 in terms of how important it is. I can see the expected deadline. I can see if the client has access to the system too to see. So I can look and see immediately, okay, well, one team member has 74 requests and the other one has 30. And also when they're saying, I can't meet a deadline, well, let's go look at the process. What part of the process broke down for you to not meet that deadline? Not, I'm burnt out, I'm stressed. Those are such big words and big emotions that aren't actually getting to the root cause. Is it that you have too many open requests? Is it that you're not sleeping because you have a newborn? Is it there's relationship things happening at home and you need a day off? But if you have a system, you go back to that. You go back to the process. It's never the person. It's, okay, what's wrong with our process that
we can adjust? What's not working? What's broken?
Yes. And it's not the person.
Yeah.
It's the process. But if you don't have that operational infrastructure, and even right now, I'm working with a lot of vendors on the marketing and the promotion of our company. It's been a big year for us. I want what we give our clients, which is I want to see everything that you're doing. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see the results of the money that I'm pouring into you. I want to know when something gets scheduled, I want access to be able to see what's happening. Where is the ROI? So you should have that internally for your own team from an accountability feedback standpoint, but you should also have that client facing. So your clients aren't wondering, I sent that email 2 days ago. I wonder where they're at on it.
Right. Totally. Expectation, everything.
Accountability, transparency, all the things.
Yeah, I'm wanting to take notes while you're talking because I'm
this is my favorite topic.
Well, I'm so glad we went into here because I was I know that's not what we, you came on the show for, but it is because this is a business show. And I love hearing you're running such a successful business. You guys have had such an incredible year. It's been a skyrocket. Tell me about the documentary.
Sure.
I want to know how that came to be because that not many business owners are getting documentaries. So, also super niche for it to be for other business owners.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. So last year, actually just about a year ago, we sold off 80% of our clients and we made a commitment. So that's where we said, we wanted to work with mid and large market employers because we're able to bring more change to more people. So we sold off a small part of our business in a 7-figure deal, which released a lot of capital to us to be able to invest in projects that are bigger than ourselves, that are going to get this message to as many American employers as possible, which is there is something you can do to control the cost of your healthcare. The people who are telling you otherwise are lying to you. But getting that message out has always been, you're in marketing, that's always been the challenge. Because if you say it that way, a lot of the times you sound like a conspiracy theorist and everyone's like, whoa, what's this girl on? But the documentary has ex-hospital CEOs, physicians, nurses, attorneys, lawmakers, people that people trust. The average American trusts those people. They don't necessarily, I wish they trusted me like them, but they don't, right? I'm in their mind, even though I would never call myself this, I'm a salesperson, So hearing this message from me, it's okay, sure, but you want my business. Even though I work for a fee and I do it all the right ways, all the things, having that message shared via a documentary is so powerful. It's so, so powerful. So getting involved in that, being able to co-produce that has been an incredible honor. I'm very grateful that, our business has had a lot of success that I was able to invest in something like that because, and then premiering it at different cities around the country. But the response has been unbelievable. To see people's reaction, they are quite literally, we just hosted a premiere in Nashville a couple of days ago, right? And so hundreds of people are looking up at the screen and I'm looking out at them and I'm seeing
it resonate.
These emotional responses, absolute disgust, because we're peeling back the curtain on what's actually happening. And then we're giving employers a roadmap. You can get out of this crap. You really can. Here's how you do it. But you first have to paint the story of what the problem is. And that's the most eye-opening, shocking, disgusting part. So it's really nice. I think it's going to actually create change and have people take action.
Wow. I think that is incredible. What is it called?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I need to when can I get it? Like,
Right?
when is it?
I can send you the link now. They're in talks, the director's in talks with where it's going to end up and different platforms and whatnot. But you can get it on my website, which is ethosbenefits.com. All these premieres that we're doing, we're also releasing the link for it. But it's called It's Not Personal, It's Just Healthcare.
Okay. It's not personal. It's just healthcare. I love that because it's like, it is personal, but it's
obviously it should be. But the truth is it's a business.
It's
your doctor's office is a business. These hospitals are a business. Insurance companies are a business. And the bigger they are responsible to their shareholders. So like what you call premium, they literally call profit, revenue, right? And it's time that we stop believing that and just accepting that, well, there's nothing I can do and they're too big of a giant, right? No.
Well, it's like when you call any doctor and there's something seriously wrong with you and you're concerned. And the first question is, what's your insurance provider?
Yeah, how much am I going to get paid?
We don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Well said.
Like literally, it's just true. Or like, I had a baby a few years ago and like, my husband and I were laughing so hard because you have to wear a barcode when you're, giving birth.
Oh my God.
And anything you ask for, orange juice, beep, Tylenol, beep, like another like blanket, beep, like it's.
We should put that in the documentary. That's hilarious.
It's just so, my husband and I are just, he's like, babe, just put your arm out because they're going to scan it. And then you're just like, whatever. But it's wild. Like, in the most personal of situations.
Yes.
Your barcode's getting scanned. Well, okay. I want to know a day in your life. And I know every day is different, but I'm so interested in kind of like how you organize your business, how you structure your day, how do you do time management? Like I'm fascinated in that.
Yeah, that's such a good question. So there's always a difference between working in the business and working on the business, right? And what my day looks like now versus what it looked like a few years ago, completely different. So my business, like I mentioned earlier, we've had double-digit revenue growth every single year by doing the right thing and supporting businesses and all the things. But early on in my career, I was very focused on sales and we grew really quickly. When that happened, the customer service retention side of my business was suffering because I was 100% focused on sales, right? So then what I did was I took a step back and for 3 years, I just immersed myself in how do I become the best leader? How do I build and attract the top talent? How do I build high-performing teams? How do I invest in a tech infrastructure and a tech stack that supports these high-performing teams so that I don't have to email and call or text somebody, where are you on this? I can look at a real-time system, not bother anybody, and understand if they're following the process or not. By the way, give my client access so they have the same transparency. Like I went all in on that. So for a long time, my day looked like building out these systems, building these people, like all of that. Now I feel very lucky in that I'm entering a new journey as an entrepreneur. Like these last 6 months, I've realized the skill set that brought me to, a sale, a 7-figure deal, and a really successful business is not the same skill set that's going to take me to real mass change. So what my time has looked like the last 6 months is incredibly different. And what I mean by that is there is a priority of self-care, which before it was, I'd wake up, I'd work out, I'd put like a good 2 hours before anybody started. So like 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., 2 hours of emails. When my team started, I'm checking in with them, seeing how everybody's doing, usually taking client meetings throughout the day or prospect meetings with vendors, like the whole day, just back to back. Like most of the time, I didn't even have time to pee for the last 6 years. The end of the day would come, I'd be like, holy shit, I didn't eat anything. By the way, I need to pee. Like,
right.
And then
basic function.
Yeah. And I don't have children yet, so I'm able to do these things. And then, we'd have dinner and then we'd be watching TV and I'm still answering emails.
Yeah.
That is not the case anymore. And mostly because my team is so amazing. Most of my time now is being spent on actual like real ROI activities, like speaking at conferences. So I travel around the country and I educate employers and HR on how to transform their benefits program to be a vehicle for attraction and retention. I get to do things like this that are soul filling for me and like spread and educate on this mass level, do these documentary premieres. But yeah, there's a lot more self-care and ruthless prioritization of my time. Like I used to just take a call from anybody. Anybody on my team had a question. Yes, absolutely. Now it's like, I've empowered them enough and given them enough resources. Like they're going to exhaust every avenue before they're going to come to me when I'm at a conference for 3 days, growing the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It's so beautiful. And I just think it's very inspiring for this audience because those 6 years you said where you were really in that grind of it, working inside of the business. I mean, so much, but also obviously so worth it because you in that time empowered the team, built those systems, delegated like a boss. And I just think it's such a powerful message to women because what you're doing is what a CEO should look like. Obviously, everyone has their own definition of CEO and it's all whatever, but you should be focusing on the growth.
Yes.
The vision casting. Where are we going? What does this look like? So that it can trickle into that retention, raises, trajectory, all of that. And I think that that's hard when you maybe are in a situation where your team is so needing of you and you're fulfilling every single thing and there's no autonomy. And like
when you're the bottleneck, like that is the absolute, that's when most businesses fail. Or and if they don't fail, they don't scale. When there is one person, usually the owner operator, that is the bottleneck. And I could not be more proud of the fact that my service team is so much better than me at everything. They are so much better than me. My account executives, we're in the process of breeding people for true management operational roles within the company. I hop on like a pre-renewal call with a client. I'm obviously always there. I'll take calls from clients whenever. Like I love them. They're amazing. They're bought into this mission. So it's energizing for me, kind of like we were talking about earlier. Like I feel like I have this almost like limitless energy because I'm so aligned with what I'm doing. But the beautiful thing is my team is so good and like these systems and these processes and all these things are in place where like I can go and do all this and I'm not worried.
Yeah.
Are we losing clients? Is client retention a problem? Absolutely not. It's probably better with them than it would have ever been had it been me answering that email.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. And I think that like everyone needs to live in their own unique ability.
Yeah.
And you are living fully in your unique ability that your team is living in theirs. They're servicing that in the best way. They couldn't be probably speaking on stages and doing what you're doing and being biz dev.
Yes.
So I think that's beautiful and like what a testament. And it really leads me perfectly into kind of like our closing question, so the theme of this show is about, my belief that our businesses can get us into what I call your Renaissance life. What you are put on this planet to be doing, making an impact, making a change, and your business shouldn't be pulling you back. It should be giving you, that Renaissance life.
Letting you walk into that.
Letting you get there. And it's like, I think it's so cool hearing your story and just how you've built this thing from the ground up and you have like literally worn every single hat, every in and out of it. But it does get to that point where I love how you said like the scale to fail ratio of like the businesses that aren't failing, they're not scaling if they're not delegating and doing that work that you really put in. So I think that's remarkable. So to kind of like close out, like what does Chelsea's Renaissance life look like? Like what is your, like you and Donovan or just you separately, like what do you, visualize your future in the next like 5 years? What do you want it to look like?
Yeah, we definitely do not have any plans to sell our business. I think a lot of people assume that when they see the growth and knowing that we sold a smaller portion of our company, there's always this assumption that, you guys are going to build this and exit. We are so dedicated to this mission of transforming employer healthcare. And there's zero chance that that's going to happen in 10 years, right? Or whatever time frame people people put on a sale. So I'm in this business. Like I am dedicated to this business. What I would love to see evolve from it, and it's already started in the most beautiful ways, is a true focus on female empowerment in business and continuing to prove these concepts that we talked about today, and just level up in my own business for proof of concept. And then eventually I'd love to be able, and I'm already doing it through mentorship and things like that, but really bring that as something where women all across the country can learn and be inspired from. That is ultimately where I'd love to be. And that's my Renaissance life. But I believe so wholeheartedly, and I say this with so much respect to everybody out there on social media, there's so many people talking about doing shit that they've never done, right? Like they're out there talking about like, boss babe, this and this and this. And it's like, you need to build a business. You need to fail. You need to screw up. You need to go through the scale and the fail and all the things before you're qualified to speak on that. And again, all the respect, I'm like, I love female empowerment and women leadership and women in business, but there's a lot of hype and being on the side of a lot of action. I want to make sure that by the time I'm actually leading that Renaissance life of showing these women how to do it, that I have done it at the best, the top level that I could have possibly done it.
Amen.
And I'm not there yet.
Amen. And I think that's like a crazy, incredible amount of self-awareness. And I think, like you're saying, there's like the whole thing with like the 22-year-old life coach. How qualified are we? How qualified? You know, it's like, I need to see that we've lived life.
I can't do it.
And we've, and same with, a business coach.
Those are my favorite. You've never owned a business? What?
Well, and like, I need someone who has my same model that understands the operational side of an agency. Like that's, what have you done?
Yes.
You sent me a really large retainer. So like, what have we done here? Okay, well that's, I could literally talk to you all day. Like I'm so into everything. I just think you're incredible. And I think you're such a Renaissance woman in so many capacities. And I'm just so proud of you. And it's like, I love seeing women like that especially that have that self-awareness of like, I know I this is like my mission and I want to have this impact, but I feel in my bones that I want to get to that next level, even though I'm like, sister, you could be a business coach yesterday. Like I will literally hire you, but no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. Just really wanting to be true to myself and to others before I feel like I'm ready to lead that life.
Yeah.
But in the process, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to inspire others. And, if my core principle is transparency, I really think it's hard, right? Like you see all these people out there and you think that their lives are amazing, and these women that are running businesses and they have kids and they're traveling the world and they're also a fashionista and they're like all this shit, and you're like, holy crap, I want the entrepreneurial journey and the finding of what your Renaissance life is and walking that path to be one that's honest and real and vulnerable and transparent.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's not sexy. It's not all the time, right? Like there's just so much more to it than I think people give credit. And I'm just all about trying to be as real as possible, whether it's healthcare, the journey of being a female in a male pale stale industry, like whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for the outlet. And, your energy, your Nashville energy is giving me life.
I love it. Well, that's why I love podcasting, because it gives you that space for you to actually share the real, because anyone could look at you and be like, okay, Barbie on stage.
Oh, I've had literally last night, I've been working 10 years to do what we've been doing, right? This year, we've gotten 2 of the top awards in the industry. There's a 3rd one coming, and we have the documentary. It's been a fantastic year.
Cloud 9, yeah.
Yeah. Last night, this gentleman comes up to me. He's also invading my personal space. And he's like, you really like the microphone, don't you, honey? Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And then he goes, I see all over social media and LinkedIn, you're just an overnight success. I'm like, yeah, dude.
He did not.
You have no fucking idea what overnight success is, but it's fine. And yes, I love the microphone. Okay.
And you know what? Drop the mic.
Yeah.
I cannot.
Go to bed, Grandpa.
Hey, night, Daniel. Like, bye. Like,
it was unbelievable.
Back to your wife that hates you.
Yeah.
I cannot I literally cannot with that.
Yeah.
But it's just wild to me because there's been a lot of positive change, I feel,
Yes.
in the women's empowerment space. And it's like a lot of it because women like you, but like you just get
Yeah, everyone's
Jerry
the dumbass.
every now and then that you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where have you been?
Yeah, just go away, please.
Yeah.
Where can everyone get in touch with you, learn more, follow you personally, follow the business, and then like, when can we watch the documentary? Do you have that?
Yeah, I will.
Shopping, like,
I'll send you, so the streaming platforms will happen later, but I can send you a link to put in the show notes for the documentary.
Really?
Dun, dun, dun. Yes.
We would love that.
Let's do that.
Okay.
And then business, ethosbenefits.com, LinkedIn, Instagram, all the things. My personal one is Chelsea Rikus, and LinkedIn's probably best, or Benefits Boss on Instagram.